The following video is brought to you by Kaleidoscope. Beautiful patterns of life.
Have you ever experienced a situation where you continue to commit yourself to a project or a particular course of action, even though you are aware that it may not be the most suitable or effective option anymore? This could be due to the sunk cost fallacy. Given the circumstances, what steps can you take to counteract the sunk cost fallacy? In order to gain insights into effectively countering the sunk cost fallacy, it becomes crucial to initially establish a clear definition of what the fallacy entails. The sunk cost fallacy refers to a cognitive bias wherein individuals make decisions influenced by the resources they have already dedicated to a particular endeavor. Prioritizing resources like time, money, or effort without taking into account the possible future advantages. In other words, people often stick to a choice or goal because they have already put time, effort, or money into it, even if it's not the best option for them anymore. Let's delve into the mechanics of how the sunk cost fallacy works. The sunk cost fallacy is appealing because people tend to feel more emotional about losses than gains. Losing $50 can have a greater impact on one's financial well-being than gaining $50. Let me explain the sunk cost fallacy. It happens when someone decides to invest resources, like time, money, or effort, into a project or course of action. Once resources are invested, they become sunk costs because they can't be recovered. People often develop an emotional attachment to their investment and may feel the need to justify their initial choice. This emotional attachment can make it difficult to change or abandon a course of action, even if it's causing negative consequences. People tend to focus on past investments rather than objectively assessing the current situation and future potential, which can lead to an escalation of commitment. This means people continue to invest resources in a failing project or pursuit in an attempt to recover their initial investment. The sunk cost fallacy is often driven by a fear of loss. People may avoid cutting their losses or abandoning a failing project because they don't want to admit that their previous investment was a waste. Unrealistic optimism refers to the tendency of individuals to believe that they are less likely than others to encounter negative events. When combined with the sunk cost fallacy, this leads to an inclination to overestimate the likelihood of success and underestimate the probability of failure, particularly when we have invested money in something. For instance, if you have invested a substantial amount of money in a new business venture, you are more likely to hold the optimistic belief that it will succeed, even if there is insufficient factual evidence to support such optimism. When you have a sense of responsibility for past expenses, it means you feel accountable for the money or resources that have already been invested in a particular project or endeavor. This feeling of responsibility can significantly influence your decision-making process and lead you to fall into the sunk cost fallacy trap. Let us do some examples to identify sunk cost fallacy. Imagine someone who buys a movie ticket and then, after just 30 minutes, realizes that the movie is not engaging. Even though they know it's not worth their time, they still watch it because they don't want to feel like they wasted their money. Sticking with a boring book out of a sense of obligation to finish it is a common example of the sunk cost fallacy in the context of leisure activities, particularly reading. When someone starts reading a book, they invest their time and effort into it, and as they progress, they may realize that the book is uninteresting, poorly written, or not what they expected. Despite this realization, they may feel compelled to continue reading simply because they have already invested time in it and want to avoid the feeling of wasting that time. The Concorde's plight is often cited as a real-life example illustrating the sunk cost fallacy. The Concorde was a supersonic passenger jet developed in the late 1960s and operated from the 1970s until its retirement in 2003. It was a groundbreaking technological achievement, capable of flying at speeds exceeding twice the speed of sound. As the Concorde faced operational difficulties and struggled to generate profits, the sunk cost fallacy became apparent in the decision-making of its operators. Despite the evident challenges and economic impracticality, the operators continued to invest significant resources in keeping the Concorde operational for decades.
Now that we have explored several examples to grasp the concept of the sunk cost fallacy, let's delve into strategies to avoid falling into this cognitive trap. The first step in avoiding the sunk cost fallacy is to be aware of it. Acknowledge that past investments, whether of time, money, or effort, should not overly influence current decisions. Understand that these costs are irretrievable and should not be a driving factor in determining future actions. Shift your attention from past investments to future consequences. Evaluate decisions based on potential outcomes and benefits rather than attempting to recover sunk costs. Consider the expected value of continuing or abandoning an endeavor. Take a step back and assess the situation objectively. Avoid emotional attachments to past investments and critically analyze the current feasibility and potential success of the project or activity. Seek input from others to gain different perspectives. Establish specific criteria and goals before initiating a project. As new information arises, measure it against the predetermined criteria. If the project no longer aligns with the set objectives, be willing to reassess and make necessary adjustments. Be mindful of the opportunity cost of persisting with a failing project. By continuing to invest resources in something unproductive, you may be missing out on more rewarding opportunities elsewhere. Embrace the idea that not all ventures will succeed. View failures or sunk costs as learning experiences that can inform future decisions. Accepting losses gracefully and moving on will lead to better decision-making in the long run. Consult with trusted colleagues, mentors, or experts. Engaging others can provide valuable insights and counteract any personal biases that may cloud judgment. Establish decision rules in advance to guide you through challenging choices. For instance, if certain predetermined conditions are not met, be prepared to discontinue the project, regardless of sunk costs. Recognize how emotions can impact decision-making. Fear of failure, pride, and ego can play a role in perpetuating the sunk cost fallacy. Stay mindful of these emotions and strive to make rational choices. If you find yourself entangled in the sunk cost fallacy, step away from the situation temporarily. Give yourself some time to gain perspective and return to the decision-making process with a clearer mind. By applying these strategies, you can navigate decision-making more effectively and avoid succumbing to the sunk cost fallacy. Remember that being flexible and adaptive in decision-making is essential for personal growth and long-term success. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for more videos like this.